Vodkast.
Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. This is a Vodkast in a new room that I hope to develop into a proper mixing, mastering, composing space, a space to make art. I hope to do it with you. I hope to do it with you on this channel. But for now, that's not what we're talking about. This is about the Vodkast, where I answer questions. You can tell I've already started drinking. You ask questions, Vodkastpodcaster at gmail.com, Twitter at Jeff Manch, or in the description, in the comments on YouTube. Or if you can get in the description and leave me a question there, I'd be impressed and would have to answer it. But in the comments on YouTube, leave a question and I'll answer it. Either in the comments or I'll answer it in the comments and then do a podcast about it. So for those who don't know, this is the thing. This is what I drink. Vodka, in this case it's scotch, and answer your questions about audio production and stuff like that. So let's just get started. All right, the first question is, hi Jeff, this is from Ayla, I don't know, ALLA. I've really enjoyed following your content here on YouTube. Thank you. I'm a self-taught composer transitioning to the world of classical music, deliberately leaving behind the film industry that left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm sure you know what I mean. I don't think I do, but okay. In any case, I wanted some advice on promoting my work. I'm building a website, but it makes me cautious to have my work be exposed to the general public. Even though there's mention of copyright, it doesn't provide the level of content protection that I would be comfortable with. Any thoughts on this? Thank you for asking the question. First of all, really great to see people making decisions. I think COVID has been one of those accelerants for a lot of people to either make a decision or stop what they're doing and stay in what they are in. It's tough when you rearrange your life and go after things that you think are in line with your dreams. There's a lot of risks and it's scary. So I just commend anyone that's doing it. Anyway, I'll start with a personal story because I think I have one for this subject. Ages ago, when I was composing for free, which I still think is cool. If I've done videos on this, I'll just say this quickly for folks that are new. Composing for free is fine as long as there's a transaction. If people can't pay you, that's fine. Say, you know what? I want your footage so I can use it in my reel. That's totally fine. Or I want this, or I want that, or whatever. It's fine. Financial doesn't have to be the only transaction. So anyway. I was composing for someone for free, and we had a good relationship. I did my thing. I sent my music off. I got their footage. I used it in my reel. It's on my Squarespace still to this day. That was it. And months went by, and I was like, I wonder what happened to that guy that I composed for. And so I went on Google, and I typed in their name, and a YouTube channel popped up, and I clicked on the channel. And their reel was up, and they were like a director, editor, cinematographer. So instead of music, which is what we would do, music switched together, it was their video reel. And boy, was I surprised when the song that came on underneath was mine, that they just used it. It was my song. And I was racking my brain. I'm like, did I give them permission? Did I forget? Did I say yes or something like that? I hadn't. I really hadn't. It felt like a total violation. It was like, how could they possibly do this? It was really weird. I felt violated. I know I'm smiling and all that stuff, but like, it is a real betrayal of trust when someone does something like that. It really shakes you. Like, this is something I worked on, and maybe there's some emotional attachment to it. I was going through something, and this piece of music, whatever. I reached out to them, and I was like, this isn't cool. Why have you done this? And their answer was fascinating. I just really like the song, is what they wrote. Yeah, I just really liked it. Not like, I was trying to get in touch with you and I couldn't, or whatever. Like, just, I liked it. I wanted it. It's mine. Anyway, it's a Wild West, Ayla. It's a really Wild West out there online. And this experience really shook things up for me and made me protect my music. And you can do that. You already know about copyright. You talked about it. But for those who don't, SOCAN is what we have here in Canada. There's ASCAP in the US and different rights collectives, and they protect your intellectual property. And if your song's getting used somewhere, they'll find out and make sure that you get paid. It's one thin layer of protection that you have. Now, if I protected my music, when this guy did his thing on YouTube, who knows? It might have triggered the algorithm which detects that this is not his song, or he's using a song that is out there. They might have contacted the rights agency and I would have found out about it and done something. But had I not played detective on Google, I never would have known. So this shook me up, and I started to research what I could do to protect my creative work. It's still a Wild West. There are no guarantees. We are not on a blockchain system where you can see every single instance in playback and reproduction and remix and edit of your creative work. We're not there. And unfortunately, for better or for worse, you have to put your stuff out there, because how else are you going to get, you can't compose and just hope people walk by the window and hear you, playing your stuff out of your speakers. You have to actually put samples and stuff like that. So that's one, copyright. Get that done. Cool, you already have that done. What else can you do? Well, you have options. You could maybe put 15 seconds or 10 seconds up instead of the 8-minute full-length cue. You could do a watermark. What's a watermark? It's where you have an insertion of music or voiceover or sound effect indicating that this is a protected work or something, just so that if anyone does want to lift it and put it in their thing, they'll have to hear every 15 seconds like, this is Allah's song. It's turning into an ASMR video. Pond 5. If you know Pond 5, they're like a sound effects library company. If you don't pay for their stuff, you just listen to it and preview it. You'll hear like let's say you want a sound effect of like siren wailing, and it'll just be like, rear, rear, Pond 5. You can do that if you want. It's a little weird. There's options, but it's a Wild West. I don't like it. It's a necessary evil to get yourself out there and everything, but until we devise a better system, or until someone in the comments keeps me honest and tells me how I should do it and how Allah should do it too, I'm not really sure. But it's tricky. I'm sorry. That's the best I can do. Hopefully there's something in there for you to latch on to and use in your journey away from film scoring and into classical music, which is wonderful. Good for you. Now, hi, Manchester Music, the second question. I often have trouble dialing in the amount of spatial effects, reverb and delay, Jacob writes. By the way, reverb, delay, spatial effects, time-based effects is another way to say it. Just being pedantic. It seems like the effect of the reverb varies from speaker to speaker and room to room, almost more than frequency response. And even on the same speakers, a mix that sounded just right for me one day will sound like a washed out, muddy mess or bone dry the next. Any suggestions? Thanks, Jacob. Okay, let's do the first part of your question. I have trouble dialing in the amount of spatial effects in my mixes. Okay, well, there I have some solutions. People know everything about EQ, and they know a lot about saturation, and they know, well, a lot about like pitch correction stuff. Compressors and time-based effects are those plugins and tools and effects where people just like pull a threshold down and they're like, I guess I don't know what it's doing. It really behooves you to go in and understand all the parameters in time-based effects, because it's there that you have your control. Parameters like pre-delay, the post-EQ, diffusion, adding a little bit of smoothing and smearing to kind of smooth out the reverb sound. This is where you control the amount of exposed reverberant signal that affects the dry signal, such that you don't get a soupy reverb drown out mix. So get to know pre-delay. This is it delays the time between the wet and the dry signal, between the wet signal, the reverb signal kicking in on that dry signal, and that difference in milliseconds when you crank it up gives you some intelligibility, especially on a vocal, or it could be on piano or something like that. So get to know pre-delay, get to know high passing, low passing, scooping out the mid-range on the EQ. If there's no EQ in your reverb, I'd be very surprised. There's a low cut and a high cut in like Vintage Verb from Valhalla, which is the most popular thing right now. Just add an EQ after the reverb on the aux or whatever to control that reverb sound. It's going to go a long way. Protect the lows from reverb with a high pass, allowing the highs to pass so that the mud of the dry signal doesn't get touched with reverb and get muddy. or protect the highs with a low pass, allowing the lows to pass so that the sibilant cymbals or whatever don't get splashed up with reverb. That's another way to do it. So there's all kinds of ways to protect the dry signal from time-based effects like delay and reverb. And phasing and flanging too are also kind of time-based effects. They're kind of micro delay, effects. And you can use EQs on those too to just control the sound. Don't just plunk it on, crank the fader up, and then walk away, because that is going to lead to soup. Now, on the second part, which is what do I do about, dealing with differences speaker to speaker, that's really weird. Part of me wonders if what's happening, and I hope this isn't patronizing, is you're in a well-treated room or you're on headphones, right? And you have a nice controlled sound. But when you play it out your speakers, it sounds really boomy and echoey, and you might be mistaking that boomy and echoey sound for the reverb in your track, but it's just the sound of the room because it's untreated. That might be what's happening. I don't know. It could be bad hygiene when you're saving your project. Maybe you're not saving that automation. So when you come back to your session, it's dry or it's wet because you didn't save the parameters that you use, the ones that I mentioned, the EQ and the pre-delay and stuff like that, to control the tightness of the sound. To me, I find it very surprising that speakers would be imparting their own time-based effects or changing the way that your reverbs or delays sound. I don't know if that cannot be happening. Maybe it is. I highly, highly doubt it. I think it's the room, or it's the saving hygiene, or it's the you not really dialing in the amount of control that you need from those parameters I mentioned earlier in the answer to the question when you're going about mixing, because they make all the difference. Just because we're here, some more best practices. You really shouldn't put reverb or delay or time-based effects if you can help it. Chorus and flanging, sure, those can go on inserts, but you shouldn't put them on inserts. They should be on an aux that you send the dry signal to through a bus, and it sends it back to the source. So that's how you should be doing it. 100% wet on the aux, send a little bit over from drums, vocals, whatever, and then it goes back, and that's more conservative, and it also saves your CPU and stuff like that. So I hope that helps. I really have no idea what's going on getting those differences, but speakers do not impart or alter the sound of time-based effects. Rooms do. If you go from headphones to like listening to it in a room, it's going to exaggerate. It's going to be the sound of the room and not the reverb, but it might trick you into thinking that the reverb settings are changing. But I hope that helps. I do. All right, let's go to the next question. All right. Hey, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. My name is Nadia Bonga. I'm really sorry. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm a huge follower of your blog and one of your supporters. Thank you very much. I kindly request, I love when people are very polite. I kindly request that you do this, that you make a tutorial on how to use Insight 2 for mixing and mastering. I noticed you using it in one of your videos after applying an EQ. I really look up to you and you inspire me. Thanks, dude. I think it's great that you have a free blog where you share your knowledge freely. Please keep doing that. I will. You are changing people's lives. At least, well, okay, I'm going to stop reading. Thank you. It's just weird to read very nice words into a camera on my channel. So, Insight 2 is a beast. It's a beast. For those who don't know, Insight, I think it's Insight Pro now. Insight is a metering suite. So this helps you understand what's going on in your mix level-wise, in terms of the spread across the left and right channels, loudness history, hitting certain targets, intelligibility of dialogue, and so on and so forth. I have not had many people ask me to do videos on this thing, so I have not made a video on Insight, but I do use it a lot. I rely on it. And why not? We don't have the hearing as humans of bats. We need to see stuff to confirm what we're hearing. Just like I look into my Apollo and I see input hitting the level going up, so I know I'm sending audio into my computer and I'm recording. We need that confirmation. That's why Insight exists. Now, just because you mentioned it, iZotope makes Insight. Go to their YouTube channel. There's Getting Started with Insight Pro. Jonathan Weiner, Director of Education at iZotope, he's done videos in a series called Are You Listening About Mastering, specifically on Insight and metering. So go type that in. Are you listening? Jonathan Weiner, iZotope, Insight, metering. And, Google, in its wisdom, the orb, all knowing, will just populate your screen with what you need there, and you'll find the video and watch it. If enough people really want me to make a video on Insight, I will, but it's a mother and there's a lot of numbers and I'm not very smart. So let's keep moving to another question. Hope that helps you. And thanks for the kind words, dude. Mr. Chante. Mr. Shanty? I don't know. Chante. I couldn't find, he says, any information on this, but would you happen to know which sub would pair best with these speakers? These, he's referring to the PMC Result 6s, I think. Or will pretty much any sub do the job? Great review, by the way. Thank you very much, Mr. So I did some research. Go check out the 22 Sub 2 by PMC. This is their sub that's supposed to accompany the kind of near field, the PMCs that I did. They make one that's, I think, higher than this. It's bigger. It's supposed to go with the mids and mains that they make. But that sub is supposed to, I think, complement the monitors, loudspeakers that I reviewed in that video. Now, why am I saying this? I believe that you should be going with the brand name of the speaker that is your, if you're going to get a sub, it should be the same brand, because the engineers over there are in the research and development, all that stuff. They work to make sure that things kind of get along with the set. I have Sennheiser headphones. I have Apple Computer. I have, Apollo, and I have Yamaha this and Focal that. But if I was going to get a sub, I would probably get the Focal sub, because that's what I have for my near field monitors, right? So that's what I'm advising here. Go for something because it's supposed to work well with the frequency response and ballistics of the monitors. Just like, the iPhone's going to work really well with a HomePod. Okay. So nothing else works with the HomePod. So anyway, that would be my suggestion. But that being said, I don't feel too qualified to give suggestions on subs because I've never worked with one. I've been in studios that have them, but I've never, in a space of my own, worked with one. So I don't really know if, I could say with confidence, do this, do that. I'm not really sure. But I would say anytime I've ever seen a sub, it is the same brand as the other speakers. What you want to do with a sub is really understand where to put it. Make sure that it is tuned and in harmony with your mains. Don't just plunk it and be like, okay, it works now. Go do some research on very calculated, purposeful placement of the subwoofer. Bobby Ozinski has a lot of literature on this. He's interviewed a lot of people on subwoofer kind of location and best practices. But I would say go for the brand. Go for the PMC one that accompanies the Nears. It's not to say that you wouldn't get good results with another brand. You could, but why would you if they make a sub? It's probably designed to kind of network really well with the other loudspeakers. So anyway, that is it for questions for this vodcast. Thank you so much for joining. Vodkastpodcaster at gmail.com, at Jeff Manch on Twitter. Ask me questions in the comments on YouTube. You can ask me questions. I will answer them in the questions and then maybe ask them here and answer them myself here again, or I'll save them for a vodcast. You never know. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting.